we have a major update. The story we have been bringing you since day one, Nolan Wells' death.
The young woman Nolan met or allegedly met on Horn Island has now been publicly identified as Katie McCormick.
A boat took on water off a remote Mississippi island. When it reached shore, one passenger was missing. 18-year-old Nolan Wells never got back on that boat. 2 days later, he was found dead in the water he'd been swimming in hours earlier. This case involves the death of a teenager, and some of what follows may be difficult to hear. If you need to step away at any point, that's okay. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're following this case as it develops, and there have been new developments almost every week since Nolan died. Weeks later, the cause of Nolan Wells' death is still officially undetermined. Two accounts of his final hour on the island contradict each other. His family's own medical examiner found something the sheriff's department hasn't publicly addressed. And just this week, the case took its next major step. This is where things actually stand, in the order they happened. Nolan Wells was 18 years old, a wide receiver at Southwest Mississippi Community College, from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. On July 4th, he and a group of friends took a boat out to Horn Island, a remote holiday destination off the Mississippi coast, with no shelters, no facilities, and no cell service. It's the kind of place people go specifically to disconnect for a day. Around 3 in the afternoon, Wells told the group he'd get a ride back with someone else. His friends left the island that evening without him. Wells didn't return. He was reported missing that night. His body was found 2 days later, on the morning of July 6th, in the water off the northwestern tip of the island, by a National Park Service ranger. His friend's account is that he chose to stay behind to talk with a young woman. His parents, Christine Wells Wansley and Elmore Wansley, rejected that explanation outright. Elmore Wansley told CBS Mornings that Nolan always stayed with the group and wouldn't have chosen to stay behind on his own. If you want the full timeline as new details come out, this is the video to bookmark. Subscribe now, because we're covering this one update at a time. For nearly 2 weeks, the woman Nolan reportedly stayed behind for was unnamed publicly. She's since been identified as Katie McCormick, 19 years old, a student from a nearby community. McCormack has not spoken publicly about the case. Her sister, Gracie McCormack, disputed the friend's version directly. According to Gracie, Katie believed Nolan was getting ready to board the boat he'd arrived on, and assumed the friends telling him to get on it wouldn't have left without him. This needs to be said plainly. Katie McCormack has not been accused of any wrongdoing, and Nolan's own family has publicly expressed support for her. Attorney Ben Crump summarized the actual dispute simply: whether Nolan got on the boat or didn't. That's the contradiction. It isn't about her. Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter told CNN that on the day Wells's body was found, detectives were already interviewing people with first-hand contact with him, and that no foul play had been identified at that point. Since then, investigators have interviewed roughly 60 witnesses, and the FBI has assisted in examining digital evidence, including Wells's phone. The 3 friends who traveled with him to the island have been interviewed in depth. The family didn't wait on the official process alone. They commissioned an independent autopsy, performed by forensic pathologist Roger Mitchell. Mitchell's report listed the cause of death as undetermined, and stated he could not rule out non-accidental factors contributing to or causing the death. The autopsy also noted red discoloration in the soft tissue at the back of Wells's head, a finding investigators haven't publicly addressed. This detail alone is a major reason the family pushed for full transparency in the process. Stay subscribed, because the next piece of this case is expected to move quickly. Christine Wells Wansley said the last time she heard from the sheriff's office was a day or 2 after her son's body was found, and that authorities indicated early on they believed it was a drowning with no suspected foul play. That early assessment is part of why the family brought in outside help. Weeks of limited public communication followed, and pressure built for officials to say more. District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath eventually addressed it directly, stating that every death in the county, aside from natural causes and non-criminal car accidents, is presented to a grand jury, and that Wells's case is being handled under that same standard process she's followed throughout her career. McElrath said she understood the public's urgency, but stated officials are not taking time for time's sake. They're taking the time the investigation requires. Her office confirmed the autopsy report will be withheld until the grand jury can review it. This week, that process moved forward. Attorney Ben Crump and the Wells family met directly with District Attorney McElrath, their first meeting since Nolan's body was recovered. Crump described the meeting as respectful, saying both sides were candid. According to Crump, McElrath walked the family through the legal process that follows once the sheriff's investigation wraps up, and confirmed the findings will go before a grand jury once that happens. It's worth being precise about what that actually means. The district attorney's office has clarified that convening a grand jury does not, on its own, mean investigators suspect a crime took place. It's the standard procedure in Jackson County for most unnatural or suspicious deaths, whether or not anything criminal is ultimately found. Crump's position is that every relevant piece of evidence needs to reach that grand jury. Nothing held back, nothing overlooked. This case has also become part of a larger conversation. Nolan was the only black person in the friend group that day. Everyone else with him was white. His parents have said their distrust of the process has been deepened by the state's history on race, and the case has drawn attention from national civil rights figures. Ben Crump has been direct about this, saying that in parts of the country, certain communities are investigated differently than others. District Attorney McElrath has publicly rejected the suggestion that the pace or handling of this investigation has anything to do with Wells's race. The attention hasn't stayed contained to Mississippi. Earlier this week, Crump and the Wells family appeared at the Knox National Convention in Chicago to share the autopsy results and provide an update to a much wider audience. That appearance is part of why this case, which started as a local missing person report on a small barrier island, is now a story people across the country are following. With that much public attention comes noise. Online speculation and competing theories have circulated widely, some of it far removed from anything actually confirmed by investigators. That's worth naming directly, because it's part of the story too. The gap between what's verified and what's simply being repeated online has become its own issue in this case, separate from the facts themselves. Nolan's funeral was held at Center Point Church in Ocean Springs. Actor Tyler Perry covered the funeral expenses, a detail that speaks to how far this story had already traveled in its earliest days, well before the grand jury process was even confirmed. So here's where things actually stand right now. The cause of death is still listed as undetermined. The red discoloration noted in the independent autopsy hasn't been explained by investigators. 2 accounts of 1 hour on that island still don't agree with each other, and a grand jury has been promised, but no date has been set for when it will actually convene. This case isn't resolved, and we're not done covering it. If you want the next update the moment the grand jury moves, or the moment new evidence comes out, make sure you're subscribed right now. Let us know in the comments. Given everything laid out here, what do you think that autopsy detail actually means?